Eric, thank you so much for taking out time to do this interview. I assume it's very early in the morning where you are.
Yeah, but I wake up early a lot most of the time, so it's not a problem.
What's the time where you are?
It's 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. And what time do you wake up usually?
I usually wake up about 7 o'clock, so this is
Okay.
fine. I woke up a little bit earlier to get ready, but yeah, this is not unusual for me.
Yeah. And you are the CEO of chess.com, and I've been in the chess world for last 10 years, traveling to different places, and it was only until the last event that I went to in Paris that I met you and I actually saw you in person. You don't travel much.
I don't travel a lot. I like to be at home. I have a routine, and I still have one child home. Three of my kids are out of the house, but I still have one more kid at home, and he and I like to spend a lot of time together. And my wife and I, enjoy being at home and with our routines, and um, so I don't get out a lot. We also are a totally remote company, so there's not really a reason for me to travel a lot, but. I do enjoy going to new places and meeting new people. And I think I'll be doing that more in the coming years as my kids are all out of the house. Um, so honestly, yeah, I have a bucket list of places to visit, and one of the main ones is, of course, India. Would love to be there. There's so many things I want to see there. I love Indian foods. I love the people. There's so many great sites to see there. Obviously, it has a rich chess history, and I'm very very excited to visit.
Yeah, actually, India is also the place where chess is bubbling, and I think you coming here will be very exciting for all the people out here.
That's very nice to hear.
And you mentioned about chess.com being a remote company, and there's one particular image that I have that I want to show you, which kind of made a very big impression on me, and which is this picture here. And for all the people who love chess, and when they see something like this, it just makes one feel that, wow, is it even possible to build something so huge? Like maybe 700 people there, in that frame. Does that
Yeah,
surprise you, like what this is?
it surprises me every single day, if I'm honest. You know, on the one hand, wow, it makes me almost a little emotional just to see it because, when I was growing up, chess was a little bit, it was a different thing than what it is today. And, having been part of that transformation, even a small part that I've had is really amazing. Chess is the greatest game, invented in India, spread around the world. And the world deserves to enjoy it and play it. And there's a richness that will never go away. It's the ultimate game. But when I was growing up, chess was something that a very few people did and to play it, you had to, go somewhere to play or play with someone near you, but you probably couldn't find someone near your strength. Either they were much better than you or, much worse than you, or you were both amateurs together. There wasn't there wasn't a way to play online. You could play on the computer a little bit, but not really online. And, getting better was harder. There were books, but it's different from digital training. So chess was just smaller. Tournament scene was different. Um, you couldn't just, today, if I want to play chess, I just pull out my phone and play chess. I could be playing chess with you in, 10 seconds. So it's just a different world. And I'm grateful to have been part of that. And I'm grateful to be able to employ so many people who love chess. And I hope that chess gets even bigger because I think it's a great gift to the world. And I feel privileged to, create a great living for so many people and to put so much money back into the chess ecosystem. we put tens of millions of dollars back into coaches and content creators, and it's just been an amazing journey, and we're just getting started.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, in order to sort of, for our interview, I've been listening to few of your podcasts, and it's very interesting how you started off your journey. And then I do want to talk a bit about that. But as someone who's also sort of trying to build something in the world of chess, it must have been really difficult to build something so huge, to have so many people together. Or was it very natural for you that it all just kept happening?
Yeah, I think the answer is both of those things are true. Um, you know, I like to say that your life is an accumulation of all of the very small things. There, you don't do big things overnight. You don't, nothing changes generally super dramatically. And so, if, for example, if you want to, run a marathon, you don't go run a marathon in one day. You start by running, 100 steps. And then the next day you run 200 steps. And then eventually you can train to get there. And, we've built this company over 20 years since the idea first came into our minds to do this. And so you can look at this picture and say, wow, that must have been hard to do. But, 20 years times 365 days, I guess that's, what is that, 7,000 days? So, you know, um, you get a lot done in a day, and then 7,000 days later, you've got 700, employees. So, it looks like crazy and insane and impossible, but you have to stick with things and then make good decisions every day. That is the main thing, is that every single day matters, and that your life is just the accumulation of the small decisions. Did you work hard? Well, if you work hard for 7,000 days, then you can do great things. If you spend 4 hours on your phone scrolling social media for 7,000 days, then you're not going to build great things. So it kind of depends on how you invest every single day in yourself and in the things you're trying to do.
I think overall you are also a little bit of a spiritual and philosophical person. Would that be right to say?
I would say I'm a philosophical person. Um, Spiritual is an interesting word. It can mean a lot of different things. But so I would say I'm definitely philosophical. I'm a humanist. I am a believer in human greatness and potential. Maybe I'm not as spiritual in terms of you know some ways that other people might imagine it, but I definitely believe in the human spirit and in the drive.
So when you think about, like these incremental things, building something every day, is there something that kind of drives you every single day, to sort of build something? Or is your personal life and professional life separate, or is it all like molded into one? How do you look at your work and personal life?
Yeah. I would say that I have a work life and a personal life that are separate. In my personal life, when I'm not working, which I work a lot, but when I'm not working, I spend a lot of time with my family. I exercise every single day. If I have a religion, it's exercise. Because that's an important part of not just physical, but also my mental fitness, because that really helps me be able to do hard things and push through things and train myself to work hard and be calm at the same time. Um, but I also like to do activities like mountain biking and some silly sports we do in America, like pickleball and disc golf. And I like to play video games. My son and I play games on the computer, like Minecraft and Helldivers, and so we like to play games. So that, and then my wife and I spend time together every single day. It's an important thing. We go on a walk, we eat dinner together, we go to bed together. So I definitely have a personal life that is very separate and healthy. But I work all the time. I wake up, I'm on Slack. I go to bed, I'm on Slack. So it weaves throughout every single day. Um, And I would say that my approach to life is I try to be balanced. I'm not a very balanced person at times because I just try to go hard at everything I do. It's a bit my personality. I think it's my dad's personality. I think it was his dad's personality. It's my son's personality. So my daughter's personalities. It's my wife's personality. So we like to drive. We like to build. We like to do things and work hard every day.
What does a day in your life look like? Because I'm always very curious. Is it like hard work all the time, like 12 hours of work, and how does a day look like?
Some days. But I wake up pretty early every day and, I sit down with a drink and then I do work for, somewhere between, half an hour and 2 hours in the morning, depending on when I get up. And then again, I exercise every day and I exercise with Danny Ren. You might know him.
Of
Um,
course.
we, we get to work out together every single day, almost every day. And we talk about work, we talk about life. We sometimes don't talk at all, and we just lift weights or go on a run. So I get to do that every single day. And then work starts, and it's Zoom meetings and Slack, and then it just goes hard until the afternoon. And then, sometimes I'll go outside and do an activity. And then in the evening, I'll work again for a couple hours, and then spend some time with my family and go to bed. And that's what my life looks like. And one funny thing is, about Wednesday every single week, I look at myself and say, I don't think I can do this anymore. This is very stressful. This is unpleasant. And then on Thursday, I wake up and say, one more day. I can do another day, maybe. And so Thursday is generally, like today for me, I wake up and I look at my calendar and I'm like, "Ah, okay, maybe this is my last, this is it. I can't do anymore." And then Friday tends to be easier. And I'm like, all right, I usually, finish a little bit earlier in the day and do some fun things. And then Saturday, I will, do chores and exercise and do, fun things with family or friends. And then Sunday, I'm so bored. And then I cannot wait to get back to work on Monday. And Monday, I love Monday. But then again, by Wednesday, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So I have this very funny cycle every single week. So anyway, that's kind of how it goes for me.
Wow. No, very nicely said. Is it like all these meetings and calls that you have like very decision making oriented? Is that what puts a lot of pressure? How do you see that?
Yeah, I'm involved in every area of the business. Maybe irresponsibly so, maybe too much, but I mean, there is so much going on at any given time. There could be legal issues, there can be HR and people issues and hiring. There can be, um, you know, operations, finance, going through how we're doing as performance and budgeting. There, I can deal with some of our investors. There's a lot of external calls, of people who want to meet and do things and partner together. I do those things. There's media stuff that I do, like I'm doing now. That takes up a lot of time. But what I really love doing is working on the product, and that is where I, get a lot of joy. What are we building next? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And maybe it's a little bit annoying or obnoxious for people on my team, but I am very picky about every single pixel. That looks too light. This is in the wrong place. Have we thought of doing this differently? I don't like how that sounds. So I'm involved in all of those things. And we have an amazing team with an amazing culture where, people can take the feedback that I give because they know that it's coming from a place of driving the mission forward and wanting the best for it. We use a lot of positivity. People who, if they ever saw our Slack messages, would probably say, "Wow, this guy sends too many emojis and smiley faces. But we have a very happy, positive culture. But we also have a very honest culture where we can be, tell each other how we feel and how we, how we think about what's going on. So, one other thing is we have a very authentic culture where I like to say that everybody gets to bring their real selves to chess.com. No politics, no fakeness, no, weird behaviors. Just be yourself. And if you are a funny person, great. If you're, a more serious person, that's fine too. But you have to bring your real self to work every single day, because then that makes other people feel like they can be their real selves. And when people are their real selves, they're their best selves. And that is such an important part of what we do.
Yeah, it's so well said. And I was watching a video of yours, and you were talking to your team, and you were saying like, okay, revenue is very important, and so on. And then immediately the next moment, you just remove everything and get into this dress and start to rap and so on. And it was so nice to see, because I think it was like a team meetup there that you had.
Yeah. Um, wow. Thank you for reminding me of that. That's really fun. Again, it's part of who I am. I am, 47 years old, but I feel like I'm 17. I'm a silly person. I like to be creative. I like to joke around. I like to not be serious. Because life can be really serious at times. So why make it more serious than it needs to be? Anyway, that was a very fun performance for me. I do like music. I do like writing music, and so that was very fun.
Yeah, it was very nice. I actually saw the entire video with all the pieces and how they move, and all of it was very well done. One
Thanks.
person you did mention in while we were talking about, and uh, you know he's someone with whom I think you spend a lot of time, Danny Ren, share. But also, whenever I've seen any video of yours, or let's say something related to a new feature or a new product that's coming out, you are in that with Danny. Oh, how is the relationship of yours with Danny? I guess you guys met uh, nearly 3 decades ago, yeah?
We actually met almost, I would say, about 17 years ago, 17 or 18 years ago. Yeah. And when we met, I will say our first meeting did not go very well. There's the, you'll have to read Danny's book coming out,
Yes, I'm
Dark
looking forward
Squares.
to it.
I've read that book. It's amazing, by the way. I have a whole appreciation for Danny Wrench and who he is and how he got to where he is. That is honestly one of the best books I've read, and especially from a memoir from somebody. And it made me feel a lot even closer to Danny. He's my best friend, the person I spend the most time with outside of my family. And I have a deep appreciation for him and his what he has done and where he has come from. You will not believe what you read, because it is such a wild story. But he doesn't present that. You meet Danny Wrench and you just think, hey, this guy is on top of the world. He's the most put together. He can talk about anything. He's so personable, so happy, so friendly, so insightful. But he has a really, really wild story. But part of that story is that when he and I first met, we didn't really get along a little bit. I thought he was too confident and too loud, and he had his own vision of what he wanted to do, and I had my vision, and we didn't initially come together in a great way. But we did start working together a little bit, and he started writing some things and doing some course content and training materials. And then over time, he just became more and more valuable and insightful. And he had such a vision for what he wanted for chess. He had such a vision for what professional chess could look like, and for what chess could look like for coaches and for trainers, and for improving students, and for what the world championship could look like. And what content creation could look like. He had such a vision for that. And when he brought that to my vision for what the product could look like for, more amateur level players like me and below, and when we put those two halves together, we were able to have a complete vision in my mind for what chess could be, both for beginning players and amateurs and casual players and improvers, and then also for professionals and creators and everybody on down. So it's been really fun to put those things together. And he and I have personalities that are similar in some ways. We have haircuts that are similar in some ways. We have habits like exercise that are similar. So we go together very well.
Yeah, it just feels like you both enjoy spending time with each other, which is rare, when you work together and also enjoy spending time. That's like the best thing that could happen.
Yeah.
And also, when I was kind of looking through all the things that you've done before chess.com, it came up that there are these two things that you had built before it. It was schoolhouse chess, an after school chess program for kids, wholesale chess, an e-commerce and chess equipment company. And then chess.com was like the third venture in chess for you. Um, were the other two like, what happened with that? Did you kind of learn something in it that you went on to chess.com?
Yeah. I mean, as you can tell, I like two things. I like chess and I like starting businesses. So, I started my first business. Well, I started my first, I guess, business when I was a young kid, going door to door in my neighborhood, trying to sell things for money. And I was always an entrepreneur, just looking for ways to work and earn. But when I was in college, when I was 21, is when I really started this first company and started teaching chess to kids, and not just me teaching one classroom of kids, but no, it was me going to different schools and setting up many different classrooms. And I wrote the curriculum and I hired the teachers. And, we were in 2 schools, then 5 schools, then 10 schools. And then over time, we were in 100 schools. And I built a program while I was in college and made money and was doing two things at once. I was, three things. I was being a husband and a new father, and I was, being an entrepreneur and teaching chess, and I was going to school kind of all at the same time there. And Schoolhouse Chess was great. I remember the first time I opened Microsoft Excel and made one column that said income and one column that said expenses, and I had to teach myself how to do, accounting, because I was an English major in school, which teaches you how to think and write, but doesn't really prepare you for business in other ways. So everything was self-taught. I remember going to a bank and saying, how do I open a bank account for a business? And they said, well, you need to have a business document that's an articles of incorporation or something. And I was like, okay. And then I went, to the government and said, hey, I need to do this. And well, fill out this paperwork. So everything was a learning journey for me. And that's part of my mindset, is that I am somehow born without any fear of failure or of not knowing something. I will enter into a situation and just say, I don't know how to do this, and I'm going to learn how. And that's my personality. So I was able to do that and start this company,
To have this attitude, sorry to cut you, you have to trust people. I think without that, you can't have such an attitude, right?
Yeah, you have to trust people, and you have to trust yourself, and you have to acknowledge that life is just learning. No one is born knowing anything. And so, you have to have a fearlessness that you can go in and learn. And I think a lot of people are too afraid to acknowledge things they don't know, or they're too afraid of the process, or they're too afraid of failing. But chess, there's no such thing as losing if you're learning, right? The only way you lose a chess game is if you don't learn something from it. Otherwise, it's a great learning moment. And life is like that the whole time. And so I did this first business with Schoolhouse Chess and grew it to be pretty big. We had, I don't know, dozens of people working for me, and it was a great experience. And then I was able to start Wholesale Chess, the other business, while I was doing Schoolhouse Chess because I needed a lot of chess equipment for this program. And I thought, well, I'll buy chess equipment. And then there was no real good place to buy chess equipment online. And this was, feels like 100 years ago, but it was, 25 years ago before Amazon was selling chess equipment. We became the Amazon
Mm.
of chess equipment. And now there's many online retailers, House of Staunton, you can buy things on Amazon. There's other retailers you can buy directly from India or China. And now it's a different world, but back then it wasn't. And, we had to buy container loads of chess equipment and bring it in and sell it online. But there was no Shopify. There was no big commerce. There was no easy way to create a storefront. So I had to code. I wrote code and then partnered with my college friend Jay, who taught me how to play chess. Well, not taught me, but he taught me to love chess and to learn chess. My mom taught me how to play, but Jay taught me that there was a whole world of chess.
This is a
So
nice picture that I have of both of you.
yeah, that's us. Oh wow, what a great shot. Jay and I were very close friends. We're still very close friends to this day. But Jay built a whole e-commerce platform, and I wrote the front end code, and he wrote the back end code, and together we launched Wholesale Chess. And I was buying container loads of chess equipment from China, and I was manufacturing and designing bags and how to make chessboards better, and the boards, the demo boards that people
Yes.
use. I designed the pieces that are most popular today
You
because I
mean
didn't
the
like the
ones
ones.
which go inside the packet, or like
Yes,
oh, without
yes,
the magnet one.
yes. Excuse me. So I didn't like them, so we designed new ones. And there was no portable chessboard for a giant chess set. So we designed the very first portable board for giant chess sets. So we did so many things to try to innovate and make chess equipment better. And we grew that business for a couple of years, and it got pretty big. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. But then after a while, it wasn't very interesting. And I got bored, and when I get bored, I get depressed. And so I was bored and depressed and financially successful, but I wasn't happy. And my wife said, I think you need to go back to school. Um, and I was like, I don't want to do that. And she was right. And she, basically, you know, almost did my whole application for me, kind of, to Stanford and a few other schools. And then I was accepted
Mm.
and to Stanford, which is probably a miracle for me. And um, it was a real life changing moment for me.
That's so nice. You spoke about your wife. Is it possible to tell us a bit about like your love story? Because I think you kind of married early. You were already a father when you were just 23. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah. I mean, what's her name?
my wife's name is Amy, and she and I met, I think within 1 week of when I turned 18. It was the very first week at college, and we happened to be paired in a social group together the very first week uh, at school. And I met her at a social activity. Um, and oh wow, I'll be emotional talking about this, but oh wow, I'm sorry. It was it was like, excuse me, it was 30 years ago. I'm sorry.
Wow. It's a very beautiful moment, yeah, for you to remember it.
Sorry. You really got me, man.
Sorry about that. I didn't know that it was such a deep memory for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we met 30 years ago on the lawn at a social event, and I thought she was the most beautiful person I'd ever met, and it was fun, and we immediately started talking, and we had such a banter together. I like to banter and tease, and she bantered and teased back, and um, we started dating, not long after that. Um, and then, you know, I left for 2 years, and at the time I was a religious missionary in Argentina for 2 years, and then she left and did the same thing in Chile. So we didn't see each other for almost 3 years.
Mhm.
And then when she got home, we wrote each other letters every week, and we still have those letters. So it's kind of a beautiful story. This was long before email, so we wrote letters and drew pictures and did all of that together. And then when she got home, I asked her to marry me, and we got married. Not that long after. So we were very young and very much in love, and then we started having kids right away. And she was always supportive of everything I've ever wanted to do, and I've been supportive of everything she's ever wanted to do. The answer the answer is just always yes. I'm thinking about this. I'd like to go out and do this. And the answer has always been yes. I've always said yes to her. She's always said yes to me. There's never been a no. So it's always just support, support, support. Um, and that's been amazing. And I have to say, my wife is really the reason that I, even started chess.com, because I, there was a time where I had I was working kind of a miserable job doing technical writing, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but the company was dying, and you know, I was it was my first job out of college, and I had started the chess company before, and then I tried to, I was like, well, I want to do something else and have a career and go get a job, but I was never meant to be employed, and she knew that, and I was miserable, and she told me, you can do this. I think there's a lot of spouses who are afraid and say, don't try it, don't do it. But it was the opposite. I was a little hesitant. She was like, no, you can do this. I believe in you. If you go touch it, it will work. And so I did. And so she was very instrumental in my entrepreneurial journey, and at every moment has said, do it, you can do it. And she also got me into school, and she also, you know, has built our family. And now she's a very successful podcaster. She has a
Oh,
podcast called Breaking Down Patriarchy. She is a feminist scholar, and studies
wow.
and educates people on gender and sex and the dynamics of patriarchy. So she's amazing.
That's amazing to know
Yeah.
about her. And does she also like chess?
She does not play chess.
Okay.
She reads a lot of books, and she loves to dance and do fitness, and she's an amazing cook and a phenomenal mother and wife, but she doesn't play chess.
Mhm. Eric, while I'm talking to you, I have this small question to you, is that, when you spoke about yourself, you said you have this kind of attitude to get things done, which is like a very strong attitude. At the
Yeah.
same time, you are so emotional, right? You have like so many amazing memories that come to you, and you're overwhelmed. And I also saw a previous interview where you were kind of choked with a lot of emotions coming out. So it's like a very different kind of a mix, yeah, to be on one hand like really really strong about something, on the other hand um very emotional. Do you see that in your life, or?
Yeah, I mean, these are deep topics. You're gonna get me emotional again. Um, always growing up, I was a little bit of a different person at times. Um, I would, people would talk about being left-brained and analytical, or right-brained, creative and emotional. And I never really identified as only one of those. I'm kind of both of those things. So I've never really felt like I identified with either side. I a little bit have both of those things. So um, yeah, I'm a little bit of an unusual cat.
I think it helps you, yeah, in both ways. When it's needed, you can power through. When it's needed, you can really feel things deeply.
Yeah. Thank you.
Could you tell us what happened with Jay? Because you stayed back in chess.com. You were there. We have Danny who joined in later. A bit about, because everywhere that I read about chess.com, it said that it was started by you and Jay together.
Yeah. Um, First of all, Jay and I, again, we're great friends. We're planning a trip together right now. We're going to be in Vegas together for the freestyle
Oh,
event coming up.
that's
So
nice.
we're excited about that. Um, Jay and I started wholesale chess together, and he was the developer there, and he was an owner at that company. And then we started chess.com together, and he was our, he and I together were the first two. And we worked together for many years. I think, Jay and I might each tell this story a little bit differently, but it's very hard. It would be very hard to drive a car with two people, different people with their hands on the steering wheel. That's a challenge, and running a business is sometimes not that different from that. And I think I'm a very strong-minded person, and I was trying to, drive the car, and I think he also, had ideas and visions of that, and sometimes we felt a little bit of a tug there. Um, and I think also it's hard sometimes for friendships and work relationships and how people are differently sometimes don't mix as well. And Jay and I sometimes had conflict, positive conflict, usually over different things and decisions. I'm sometimes not the easiest person in because I drive hard and I have strong feelings, and he drives hard and has strong feelings. But we did work through that for many, many years. We worked together for a long time. Um, and then he also, um, I think the main reason probably is that in 2010, we started a different business together called exercise.com because we didn't think chess would ever be as big as it is. And we thought it might, we wanted to keep doing chess, and we did, but we also wanted to start a different thing. I was getting into fitness at the time. We thought that we could build a bigger business doing that. Turns out we were wrong. Um, but he went with me and did that. And I think that derailed him a little bit from focusing on chess, obviously. And then from there, later on, he also got very interested in different crypto things, and he wanted to do, kind of crypto gaming and some other things. So he got a little bit distracted on some of the other things, as did I. I came back to chess sooner and with full focus, and he came back to chess later and not exactly with full focus there. And we did that together for a while until it didn't work, and he stepped aside, and we hired someone else. So he probably would say that if we hadn't gone and done some of these other things, that we would probably still work together today. And life takes a lot of different turns. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. Yeah, it's maybe one of the most important ones in chess.com's entire historical development. Um, I also got to know that chess.com was something when you started. There's this amazing story of which is spoken quite a lot about the domain, and
yeah,
something that was, I think, close to $50,000 were invested at that point for the
yeah,
domain. What this story tells me is that now it seems like a no-brainer, right? To have that domain for 50,000, but at that point, perhaps it must have been quite a tough decision. It also shows that there are that the value of things, like what is the value of something. What is the story for you? Like, could you tell us about that? Because kind of changed everything in chess.
yeah. Well, there were some people who were trying to do chess before. They had registered the domain name in 1995, and they had tried to create a chess software business, which they did, but they had spent too much money, and they had to go bankrupt because they owed a lot of money. But they had some assets. They had a patent, they had a domain name, they had some software code. Um, but they owed millions and millions of dollars, to investors and, to creditors. And so they had to go bankrupt. And I met them because I reached out and said, who owns chess.com? And then I met the people who did. Um, and of the three people who originally were there, two have passed away, and one still is alive, and he and I have been in contact. But they had to go bankrupt because they because of the financial situation. And when they did, my friend Zach, who I was, we were always kind of thinking of ideas together. He's like, hey, I think we can buy the domain name out of the bankruptcy. And so, he was on the phone and he made the bids. And, I was writing the check, of course, because I had money from selling the other two businesses, Schoolhouse Chess and Wholesale Chess. And to us, it was kind of a no-brainer because we knew, like you said, we knew the value of it. And we were the highest bidders and ended up with it. And, I do think that, it came about because of curiosity. Who owns that? What is it worth? Is there an opportunity here? And just a relentlessness of kind of pursuing something and frankly, getting very lucky. We were very lucky that the domain name was coming available. We were very lucky that it was going into bankruptcy. I was very lucky that I happened to have enough money to, pay cash for a $56,000 domain name, 20 years ago. That's not normal for, a kid my age at the time in their mid 20s. It was just a very fortunate series of events that got us there.
Very cool. And when you started chess.com, you were bootstrapped, yes? And I think it was at that point there were no one ready to invest, but that actually helped you because in a way you started thinking about monetizing, profitability right from the word go. And then after a few years, now there are a lot of investors in chess.com. And how do you see these two different periods? Because I guess when you are bootstrapped, the value of every single penny is very high, how you're going to spend it. And then when you get investors, there's this huge inflow of money. Can you share with us both these phases?
Yeah. So I did meet, I was at Stanford at the time, and I did meet with different investors and different advisors and people. And this was kind of in 2006 and 2007. And everybody told me that chess really wasn't investable, or they gave me some low offers. I'll give you $100,000 for 30% of your business. And it was like insane. Because even at the time I knew it was worth more than that. And so they said no, and I still had some cash. So I was the investor, right, at the beginning. And over time, I ended up, investing $500,000, which is basically all the money I had ever made, kind of into this venture. And then we, used that to become then profitable after a couple of years. So I think in 2009, we started to become profitable. But as you said, we hired slowly because, we couldn't afford not to. I think Danny Ren still has his offer letter where I think we offered him, it might have been like $25,000 a year for a full-time job, which, it's not a lot of money, but it's what we had. And so, we hired great people, but inexpensively, and I wasn't getting paid for many years. And, here's my wife and new kids. And, a lot of people would say, how does that happen? But again, my wife believed in it all the way. So eventually though, we became profitable. And then when we had extra money, we would hire someone, and then we would work and we'd have extra money, and then we'd hire someone. And, I do remember a time when I said at a company, one of our first company meetings, I said, there were like 30 people there. And I said, guys, I think this is as big as the company will ever be. And then the next year we were 45 people. And I said, I think we may get to 50, but that's it. I think once we got to 100 people, I stopped saying that. And it's been surprising ever since. But we were very frugal. We're still very frugal because money matters. And then here's the thing is that we actually never took investor money. We never needed it. But what we sold was ownership, but the money wasn't cash into the business. It was cash to the owners. because Jay and I and others had worked for so many years for so little money. And, here I am with 4 kids and, never owning a house and working my butt off. And then some investors come and say, hey, we want to buy in. And it's kind of hard to say no because but working for so long, without really any financial return. So eventually we had one investor and then that investor left and then we had a new one. But each time they were never putting cash into the business. And so we, still to this day, have never needed or used investor cash.
But did it ever impact like having an investor that now you have this vision and the investor has another vision? Does that happen?
With our first investor, it never happened because he was a chess player and was just very excited about the company and he was very helpful. But he said he would be our forever and our only investor. But then a couple years later, he said, "Hey, I need to sell my shares." And we're like, "What? We thought that this was going to happen forever." But then we found another investor who loved chess and had $1 billion. He had sold a company, a poker company, and we thought, "Oh, this will be our last investor. We'll never need another one." And he was very much very helpful, very much like on the mission of growing the game. And we thought he would be there forever. And then a few years later, he said, "Hey, I need to sell." Like, what? We thought you would be our forever investor. But then by the time we were so large, we couldn't get just one person. It had to be, a larger investor. And then General Atlantic came in. And General Atlantic has been a different type of investor. They have been more of a traditional style investor. And at first I was like, oh, they'll stay out of our way and we'll do our thing and that will be great. But after a while, not after, they kind of just slowly ramped up the expectations of us running more efficiently and changing how we did things into more of a data driven, product led growth. And I was so stubborn about that because I was like, don't tell me what to do. We've done a great thing. We're going to keep building products that people love, and then chess will be more popular. And I was hesitant and resistant. But what I have learned over time is that these are the same thing. And I was a little bit stubborn at first. And there was always a little bit of a friction there, but which was fine, and there still sometimes is a little bit of friction, but they're always wanting us to get better. And what I've learned is as we get better as an organization by tracking what we're doing more, using more data, making better decisions, it actually ends up serving the game and we build better products with a better team and with more resources to serve the mission. So it has actually come to be the same thing. And I didn't feel that always. And I didn't understand it at first. And I felt like it was like, oh, money, money, investor, investor. And I was like, it bothered me a lot. But now we've just gotten to be a much better organization, and I'm grateful for it. So, yeah.
There's more structure to things and stuff, and I think it also speaks about your flexibility to change yourself, yeah, not to remain like one way of dealing with things.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And also there's this thing that chess.com has done over the years, very interesting stuff in the world of chess. There are times when there have been companies which have been growing in the chess ecosystem, and chess.com has acquired them. And this happened quite a lot. Like, I think first it was the Play Magnus group that acquired a few things, and then eventually chess.com acquired Play Magnus. What is your thought behind this? Is it because sometimes it's like when there are more players in an ecosystem, it's nice to have different people, different companies. But here it feels like chess.com is like one of the major companies, and there's very few after that. Can you take us through like this decision of acquiring Play Magnus and talk about this topic a bit?
Yeah. You know, acquisitions are hard. Our first acquisition was actually a company called Chess Park. It was very early, and they were a chess server, and we it was a stupid thing to do, but we bought their customer list thinking there would be a lot of users, but it ended up not being anything of value. Um, then we acquired Chess Vibes, which really was us buying Peter Doggers, who was the best chess journalist at the time and maybe still is, although there's a lot of chess journalists now. And that was actually a really good acquisition for us because Peter was amazing and really helped us on the professional side for many, 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 many years and continues to work with us. Um, After that, we didn't acquire a lot. Then we acquired Chess Bomb, which
Mhm.
was a broadcast platform. Um, Good and bad from that. It's always harder to integrate than you think. And I think now there's very little of their code that remains. We've had to rewrite things, but it was a part of the market we wanted to be in, and we thought it would help accelerate. Probably didn't. We probably could have and should have just built our own thing from the start. Um, and then we acquired Komodo Chess Engine because we wanted the expertise of that. And since then, a lot of it's we still use it, but a lot of it is being rewritten with Torch, which is the new engine that we work with and work on. Um, and then the big one you mentioned is Play Magnus, and they had a philosophy of, we were kind of in the mode of acquire and then integrate, and they were in the mode of like acquire and just stay separate in some ways. Um, and they were also acquiring lots of different types of businesses, publishers, and play this. They were trying to build a lot of different things into an ecosystem, and the good of what they did was that they brought resources and investor money in to try to build these different businesses and tried to and push. And it was help. They were pushing on things which made chess.com try to work harder. And, we were very competitive in that way. But we were spending a lot of time building the same things. Um, they were, they had Chessable, which remains, the best place to do courses and online training. And they had the tour, and their tour had Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen wasn't playing on chess.com. Um, and then they had some other businesses in there. Um, and we those are the three main things we wanted was the tour and Magnus and the Chessable, because those were parts of the market that we were not as strong in. And so we ended up doing the acquisition. And in hindsight, what I will say is, um, on one hand, we definitely overpaid because the value was not there. Their revenue was climbing, but they were not profitable. I actually think that probably within maybe, 2, 3, 4 years, we would have gone out of business. Because the economics were so bad. They didn't have a viable business model like we did. And the other thing is that their tour business, the sponsorship money, a lot of it was crypto money from FTX and others, and the economy has changed since then, and it's been a lot harder to get revenue there. So now in hindsight, most of those businesses were not self-sustaining. Some of them have been sold off or have been divested or kind of given back because they don't fit into chess.com's model. But that said, we picked up a lot of great team members. Magnus Carlsen is playing with us. And we're trying, and we're now there's a whole lot of people together in the chess world focused on kind of one mission forward instead of kind of doing the same thing. Um, there is competition in the market. There's hundreds of apps. There's new startups every day for different things that we see. Lichess has a great play zone, and a different kind of community and model. So the competition remains to grow the game and to be as best as possible. But the truth is, if in hindsight, Play Magnus was not a healthy company, and was it a good acquisition? Probably. Could it have gone a different way? Also, probably. But we're now one team together at chess.com and Chessable and the other things we do. We feel very united in the mission, and we've been able to really grow from there.
Very interesting take. You did mention also about Chess. How do you feel overall about Chess and their existence there in the space of chess? Because
Yeah, I
it's
think
like both are play zones, quite different from each other. And what do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, every healthy ecosystem needs multiple players, as you said. And, everyone has different tastes and different needs and different preferences. And, it's a very healthy part of the ecosystem. They're also a big barrier to competition. I mean, imagine today trying to think you're going to create a play server, and you not only have to, you'd have to try to beat chess.com, but you'd have to try to beat Lichess. There's no space there. There's just no space. So it's a very healthy dynamic with the two. And people can have preferences. If we like to joke around. If you like an artificially high rating, go play on Lichess. I'm kind of teasing there, kind of not teasing at the same time, but they do have an important place there. They have a different business model. I mean, not a business model; it's a donation model. And they don't have the resources that we have, and we feel honored that you know as a more capitalist or more financially driven, we drive revenue, and then that revenue goes out back to people who, the 700 people you showed in the picture. It goes out to the professionals who are playing and want to have tournaments for money. And it goes out to content creators and course creators and, all the different people who are involved in the chess ecosystem. So in our mind, we feel very honored to be able to have a healthy economy to grow the game. Because if there's no money, there's no jobs, there's no prizes, there's no room for professionals, and so we like our model and think that driving revenue into the game brings more people in. I mean, you would not be able to do what you do if you didn't make money doing what you do.
Right.
And so, and then you can employ people and you can travel and you can do these things. And so for us, I understand that there are people, oh, chess should be free, there shouldn't be money, but I think that having money grows the game. And I think that our thesis and philosophy of that has proven out over the last 20 years, that having that driving for that has brought more and more greatness to the game, more money to the game, which brings more, great people to the game to help.
We did speak about Magnus now kind of being part of chess.com, and this acquisition. There's a very nice picture of you becoming Magnus. I think this was during the World Championship match, if I'm not mistaken. um, how has it been being with Magnus, like him becoming part of chess.com?
It's been awesome. He's a great guy. He is just all he wants to do is play chess and play the kind of chess he likes. That's what drives him, is greatness on the chessboard and on the digital chessboard. Um, so it's been really fun to work with. I love seeing his rivalry, with Hikaru. They're both just amazing players at the very top of their game. As you saw in the event
Yeah,
yesterday, I mean, just what a great. So it's always the best, and it's been a joy to get to know Hikaru personally. He and I message frequently about other things that aren't just chess, whether it's the economy or whatever it is. We talk about other things, and Magnus I get to see at different times, and I've played poker with Magnus, and he's a very dangerous poker player. So it's been kind of fun to get to know these guys and see that, and it's been awesome to work with the very best chess players in the world.
amazing. And talking about chess.com and its product, mainly the play zone and everything that involves there, the events page and the learning platform and all. How do you see this evolving? Like there is so much on the platform, there are so many different things. There's also a lot of feedback that goes online, please improve this, please make this better. How do you sort of prioritize it? What's your road ahead?
Yeah. That's the hard thing is there's a lot of great stuff, but it's never good enough. We're always driven to make everything better. Um, Chess is a hard game. The code of chess is hard. It's not easy. There's just so many corner cases of different things, and so we're trying to make game review better and smarter all the time. And of course, it makes mistakes because chess is very complicated and we're always investing in different things. We have a whole lot of new products coming and new things we're doing, but we're also working on improving and fixing things that we already have. So it's just endless. It is endless. It is complicated. It is hard to prioritize. There's so many new ideas we haven't even touched. There's so many things we're currently working on. There's so many things we wish we could be working on. There's so many things that are broken. There's so many things that could be improved. And it's very hard to prioritize all of that. That is part of my job is to help do that. And it's always hard because I know everyone has their own personal wish list of things that chess.com would do. And I have my own personal wish list. But it's very hard to do that. So we try to have a balance. Everything from building out a global chess network where there's servers and all over the world to investing in fair play and protecting the game and countering against cheating, to building new learning technologies with game review and lessons, to making it more fun with bots and a virtual coach, to making puzzles more fun and more interactive and more enjoyable, to launching the new courses on chess.com where a whole audience of people who are not on Chessable but on chess.com can now access it. And we have to do that on 3 platforms, on web, on Android, on iOS, on building ChessKit, another platform, and trying to do a mini chess.com there. So it is endless, it is massive, it is scary, it is fun. It is so many different things. And at the end of the day, we're all doing our best to serve and honor this great game.
Do you think like if you had like 500 more people coming in and that would and you had the resources to have them, then all these things could be prioritized, or that leads to new problems?
Yes, both of those things. More is not always better. But, I do think we'll continue to grow over time. I think we're at a good size. I think we could have some more because we kind of know what our products and work streams are. And I think if we can fully staff those out, sometimes there's like one designer who has to serve 3 different teams, and then one doesn't get enough and we can't work on it. So I think once we can fully staff out our work streams, which we have, we'll be in a better place, and we're getting closer and closer to that. I have like 1 more minute, unfortunately. Danny's waiting for me in the gym,
Okay.
and I got to
I'm
go
going to
here.
ask you one final question, and this is
Okay.
about India because
Yeah.
Chesscom India exists. It's maybe one of the most successful, you can say, at least social media pages there. It has a lot of followership. You have a nice team now in India. How do you see India and the team and your future plans there?
India is such a special place because again, the birthplace of chess and the renaissance of chess. So it's kind of been so important on both sides. We're seeing some of the best chess players in the world coming out of India with Gukesh, but many others very close to him and on his heels. So India is so fascinating, and we're going to continue to invest there, both in the team and in making sure that the product works well for everybody there, and the content is local and fresh. And we love seeing all of the amazing people from India who join chess.com and enjoy the platform, and we appreciate that. It is a challenge because India, as the way that different economics and cultural things, it does make it harder. We have a much lower subscriber rate in India, for example, than we do in other countries. We have a much lower advertising, revenue, almost none, because the economy is so different there. And so on the one hand, we're kind of subsidizing our growth in India by other countries. And so we make money in other countries and use that to fuel in India. And we appreciate every single subscriber in India who does have a premium membership. We appreciate you. And we've tried to price our memberships at a rate that feels appropriate for the country, but we know it's still out of reach for some people, or that some people just don't want to pay for certain services. That's fine. But again, our investment is in some ways a reflection of that of the economy and the situation there. So, we always have to monitor this. And we know that India is thriving, in many ways, and we hope it continues to thrive economically, and that people will have, there will be more growth in all areas of the country and the economy, and that's good for everybody. So we're very bullish on India as a country. We hope for peace for you and for the region and for everything that's going on there. We want stability and happiness and growth and chess for everyone.
Well, Erik, thank you so much for, spending more than an hour with me, and it was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope to see you soon in person as well.
Hey, great to meet you. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of your fans. Thank you to everyone in India and to everybody who watches this. It's an honor to be here.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much.